You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker, what you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Good to be back in studio today. Great to see everybody yesterday. Not just in Greenwood at Twin Peaks, but downtown Cambridge Fieldhouse last night. I took Blake to see Justin Timberlake, and it's pretty cool. Dude is talented as hell. There's no question about that. I think 43 years of age, still puts it out there, but I saw a lot of you on a Monday night, a wild Monday night, in fact. And it was good to see everybody there. And it looked like, to me, from my vantage point, which was a good one, and a shout-out to Matt Goins of AAA. I went with Matt and his lovely wife, Michelle, and a friend of theirs, Heather, and it was one hell of a time. So shout out to Matt at AAA membership. You can sign up for that today right on the AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live. You can get in there, but it looked like everybody at Cambridge Fieldhouse last night had a hellaciously good time. Let me say, those things don't grow on trees either. You got to take advantage of them. I don't care if it's on a Monday night in December or whatever night of the week that it is. If you can go and you can do, go and do. You can stay home and rest and watch TV later, right? Good times last night to be had by all. It was great to see. I had a group next to me from Zionsville, and the ladies from Zionsville were letting her all go last night. It was good to see. Letting her all go. And Zionsville may have been empty last night. But good times to be had by all. So, obviously, a lot of recaps still of that debacle in Denver going back to Sunday. I know a lot of you have asked me about this, and I'm probably not the right guy to hand out social media advice because I suck at it. I stink. There'll be moments where if you say something like, I have the rule, right? The whole Dalton from Roadhouse rule, the sways rule, be nice until it's time not to be nice. And yeah, I'm never going to fire first. I'm not going to initiate. Now, what I will do is will respond. And what I would like to think that I do when I respond is put it to bed. Sometimes yes, I guess maybe sometimes no, but I don't always respond because I don't always see it. Sometimes I do. Sometimes it kind of depends on the mood, right? You know, if the mood strikes you at the right time, if you're kind of pissy, then maybe you're more apt to fire away, to fire back. If not, maybe you just let her fly by. Maybe you say, you know what, I'll save this a little bit later. I got to come up with the banger. I have to come up with the banger of the retort right here. So I'm not at all the best person to ask about this, and I thoroughly realize it. Nor should be handing out advice. I'm not qualified enough because I have screwed this thing up before. I'll probably screw it up again. And I completely understand. I completely understand if you're a player and you see all this junk about you, you want to fire back. It's just better off, especially when things aren't going well for you, you don't. And Zaire Franklin has been firing off earlier today, and you guys let me in on that, and I read some of the stuff. Obviously, he doesn't, nor do the defensive players need to defend their play on Sunday. They just don't. I think that's one, if I were Zaire, and again, easier said than done, and hell, one of these days, I'll be the biggest hypocrite in the world, and I'll say, yeah, you remember what you said, and I'll fire back too. But after, where things are still a little bit sore after that disappointment on Sunday, and even though your group and Zaire Franklin had an interception, Had a nice game. Defensively, they had a nice game. I mean, hell, Bo Nix was throwing the football around. It's almost like everybody could have had an interception because he was hitting everybody in a Colts uniform defensively right on the mark. He wasn't as good a passer as A.D. Mitchell, but he was right there. But if I were Zaire, it'd be tough to handle, but I'd probably go ahead and let all this stuff fly by. I'd let it fly by. Although there is a tactic to it. There's a strategy. You know, if you say one thing, you're probably going to get a lot of people on your side saying, hey, you know what? This was not a defensive issue. I mean, hell, he had a pick. He played well. This was not on the defense. This was on the offense. This was on the coach. This was on the quarterback. This was on all of that. Even the special teams, for that matter. But not Zaire Franklin. So you can let others speak for you, but I'd probably, at this point in time, try to hang away from it. And here's what you can do, I would guess, if you're the Colts, because there is still a way to get to the postseason. And I know it's supposed to sound ridiculous, but really it just involves the Chargers losing 2 out of 3 and the Colts winning all 3 of theirs. And we'll go over that coming up here, but we're talking about still at 8%. And listen, I'm not advocating anybody holding their breath. I am just reporting that to you, and I'm sure you already know it because I have to. Do I believe it? No. But it is not the excruciating set of circumstances that you once thought. There's also a Baltimore way, too, which is really odd. But, yeah, the Charger one, honestly, the Charger one does not seem as ridiculous as I thought that the whole scenario was going to seem yesterday. However, we know who we're dealing with. We know this is the Colts. And the one thing that they have consistently done over the last handful of years is doing themselves in, as we talked about yesterday. Not helping themselves out, but doing themselves in. But I would probably hang out and still just let my play speak for itself. And then let's just say a little magic happens, lightning strikes, and somehow what happens to the Chargers happens. What happens to the Colts, they went out with a very bad list of teams in the final 3. And I know that they're among the bad list of teams in the NFL. That's not lost on me. But that schedule is not daunting whatsoever. And then, you know what? If by some set of circumstances you do finally strike good fortune, cash that bad boy in and then tell everybody about it. I just don't know if I'd do it after what took place on Sunday, because even though you and your side of the football, you were not the contributors to that, you tried to prevent it, and then others, unfortunately, got in the way and screwed things up. I would not want this to fester on midweek. It's already bad enough. We're going to sit here and talk about it all week long still. I mean, really, all the way up until the end of the week. Writers are going to write about it. People with the blogs are going to blog about it. Video bloggers are going to video blog about it. TV is going to have reports on it. This is not going to go away. What I'm saying is that I would not help the situation out by hanging in and then creating another angle for it. But I do. It's not lost on me trying to understand how difficult that might be to stay away from it. In this case, it's probably better off to stay away from it. I think the counter was most in the league in the last 3 years since I've become a starter, talking about tackles, on the list with great players who I respect and study. And if I never missed a tackle, I would be the best tackler in the league ever saw. And obviously that's in jest, because he says he has more room to grow. And what happens after that is you create yourself as a target for the ridiculous. And if I were him, I wouldn't do it. Completely understand why you'd want to get a little payback on somebody, tell them how it really is, because believe me, on a much, much smaller scale, I find myself wanting to do that all the time. It's weird. I send out so much stuff that does not make the cutting room floor. I go, I'm going to type this up, and this looks really good, and then I read it back to me, and I go, man, this is either going to be lost in interpretation, or you sound like even more of an a-hole than you are. Just don't do it. And that's not a sign of maturity and growth, and it's sure as hell not a sign of smarts real good. I guess it's me being more careful. But I'll say that right now, and I'll go home 4 hours later and completely blank the whole thing up. That's just how it is. But if you're a player in this situation with this team, as raw as the feelings are with this fan base right now, because this fan base has no legitimate answers. Talk about the light really quick at the end of this tunnel. Where's the light? What do you feel good about? What do you really like about what's going on here? You know, what do you hang your proverbial hat upon for the future? What's good? What's good in the now? What's going to be good in the future? Yeah, see, that's the issue. Because you can't say a damn thing's good right now. You're 2 games under 500, and you're pretty well on the outside looking into the postseason. You need a good luck charm, solid prayer, the most good fortune this franchise has had in a number of years of incredibly ill-fated fortune. You're going to need all that and then some. And then you prioritize your views on looking to the future, and that doesn't look any damn better. That does not look any better. And every argument that you come up with, somebody else is going to say, well, you know what, if you would win, or, well, if you would beat good teams, you guys only beat the bad teams. You guys have been bad this year, too. Yeah, you may have been good against Denver, but there are a lot of other games. Look at this game, and you guys weren't worth a lick. There's always going to be a strong retort because you have a fan base right now that does not see a great deal of hope. That's what's presented before you. And I know we all live in the now because we all soak in it. But this is also so much about the long term, wanting to find something that you believe is going to be long lasting, that you can grasp, that you really like, and you just can't do it. Anthony Richardson, even the biggest supporter right now cannot buy it. There are a lot of blogs out there that love him and believe he's superhuman and going to be the most talented, most well-equipped to play the position at so many different levels, athlete at quarterback ever. I mean, you're fooling yourself with all this right now. And that's why I said yesterday, I live in the now and have to describe you what's going on in the now. And in the now, I don't see it. And neither can you. Is it the coaching? You look at the roster and go, all right, well, who else stands out? It's just, there's nothing good right now, no matter what you say. And that's where you are. So those feelings are raw. And logically speaking, nobody is going to respond the way that you want, so it's just probably better off. I'm not suggesting delete it or anything like that, but just hang loose and hang out of it. Let's just say on Sunday, your play, their play on the defensive side, it did speak for itself. There's nothing wrong with it. They were making plays out there. They were not the issue. Not the root of the issue, not the surface of the issue, nothing. But you got a lot of people that are pissed. You got a lot of people who are going to be even more angry that if they don't make the postseason, which it looks like they're not gonna, you got to go down the stretch with 3 games, 2 at home against bad teams, but still got to have a lot of help. Then you have another lost, mediocre season. And as I said yesterday, and I think this has probably been talked about and written about as well, you can see this group going a game over 500, and you can see organizationally saying, well, this turned out as we were going with yet another rookie quarterback in a reboot, and we had to bench him midseason and all this stuff. You're going to say, hey, a game over 500, we're going in the right direction, when I don't know how anybody can suggest you're going in the right direction because you cannot see a foot in front of you right now. You really can't. There's no – what vision is there? What vision is there? And they probably feel the same way in Tennessee. I don't know how they feel in Jacksonville because they're supposed to have the quarterback there, and they've been wildly disappointing. But as I said yesterday, those in Houston point at Indy like the Indy fans used to point at Houston. Go, hey, you don't want to be that. Boy, it'd really suck to be that. How would you like to be that? How about that direction going on there right now? You know, back when we were saying, hey, look at them hanging on to that quarterback, and then they're probably saying, hey, I can't believe they're hanging on to that general manager. What are you doing? Going into year number 9 next year? And then people aren't going to understand, as I mentioned yesterday, I think if you get rid of one, you get rid of all 3. But if you don't get rid, you don't get rid of one if you don't get rid of all 3, meaning I don't think that any of the 3 are going to be broken off here. And I'm talking about general manager, quarterback, and head coach. And certainly you can make arguments regarding Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson. There's no reason to do anything with Richardson other than to continue to look at him. But I'm just talking about long term. You're going to have to start after this year, like making plans, aren't you? Would you start making plans? Maybe not out of this draft because it's not robust at that position. But you're going to see what you have next year, and if it doesn't make, and I'm not talking about baby steps types of returns here. I mean big-time steps being made. I mean, you have to start looking someplace else if you're not already looking someplace else. So there's really no reason to do anything at quarterback. That's just going to remain what it is. That's the situation you put yourselves in. And then you would say, all right, well, if you're the head coach, what head coach is going to want to deal with that? And then we talked about all that yesterday with general manager. So that is my thought, that this is all going to remain the same, and that's going to make, with yet another incredibly mediocre, no playoff season, this fan base even more salty. And it's really tough to explain. But I'd hang away from it. I would. If I were any of them right now, I'd just say, yeah, me and social media don't mix. You can take a victory lap, and that's always going to make you feel good. And believe me, one of these days, hopefully you're going to get a chance to take the victory lap. But trying to take one right now is only going to turn others off. Probably even going to turn some off that are on your side. So that would be, again, my unsolicited advice coming from somebody that is not very smart at all and has screwed this thing up and will do it again. But to me, that is where we are. That is where we are with this thing right now. All right, we can talk Colts, and we will. Greg's going to join us. We got high school, we got college, we got IU-Notre Dame coming up on Friday. Greg's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. In fact, Greg's going to be in for me coming up tomorrow, as I am going to be on the road tomorrow. So Greg is in here on Wednesday. Thursday and Friday for me, we are at the Ale Emporium in Greenwood Thursday. That's the Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots. And then on Friday, Coach's Tavern, the great Tommy S., who spent the night, I'm assuming, up in Minneapolis to watch the Vikings beat the Bears last night. Tommy S.'s place, Coach's Tavern, on a Bud Light Blue Friday, coming up on Friday. Now, we'll also mention this to you. There's absolutely no reason, none whatsoever, not to try to have some fun, even with these games, and you're in the dumps about your team, and it's completely bum-out city here. No reason not to try to have a good time in the process. So we're going to give away some bullseye passes the rest of the week, too, because no matter what happens, I've always explained it this way. Unfortunately, I think the Colts have provided me enough material for me to have to angle it and explain it that way. No matter what happens in the stadium, just party enough and your game day experience is made, right? You've heard that before. That's been my line before, which is an incredibly accurate line, but you create that line when you can't count on the home team to get things done. But the line is still nonetheless incredibly true. Go there and you party, and then you go to the stadium and you see what the hell happens. But your game day experience is made. I got bullseye passes to give away a little bit later on. James, more Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work. Who won yesterday? Do you remember at all? You don't have to if you don't. Good show yesterday. That's coming up, I believe, August the 5th at Ruoff Home Mortgage Music Center. Coming up next summer. That is going to be outstanding. Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work a little bit later on. Nate Atkins of the Star. We'll talk about what I just brought up and a lot of other stuff with Nate regarding the Colts and see if there's any bearing on the rest of these games on anybody's job status. Yeah, the one guy And hell, he didn't have anything to do with it on Sunday. The one guy that I can see them making a move on is Gus Bradley. He didn't have a damn thing to do with that on Sunday. Now, again, I'm talking about in the moment, in the now. That's the one guy. As of right now. I'd be surprised, especially if they end up cashing it in and not making the postseason if anything else happens. Yeah, I saw that too. Tired of you all playing with my name. I just, again, I would just go ahead and squash it. If I were Zaire or if I were any other Colts player right now, I would steer clear from social media so far. I mean, career-wise, you're not winning on the field. You didn't win that game on Sunday. And again, the defense had nothing to do with that. And that cluster especially. But I just wouldn't want to be a part of it. Probably not so sound advice coming from me right there. More discussion with Greg and with Nate. We got more Colt stuff for you, too. IU-Notre Dame coming up on Friday. Trying to think, maybe state coaches and watch that. We'll hang out someplace and watch it for damn sure. Got IU-Notre Dame college football playoff. Hey, by the way, too, I'll retweet this if we can say tweet. Re-exit. MoyerFineJewelers.com/JMV. $2,500 gift certificate if you win our college football pick'em. You cannot afford to jack around and miss that. Sign up, make your picks, boom, and done. What's hilarious about it, I think I have met two of the first three winners. Now, this was our weekly pick'ems, the Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots. And those wins were worth $1,000 in gift certificates. This win is worth $2,500. You know you want to stop by there anyway. Moyer Fine Jewelers, Carmel. We're always talking about the jewelry and the gift for her, which is one hell of an idea. Fellas, this will make you from zero to hero status immediately. So that'd be good on you. But ladies, and I know that we have a sprinkling of ladies. I'm assuming we have a more, James, than a sprinkling of ladies from Zionsville listening today. Because I sat next to the entire city. If the city of Zionsville were all women yesterday, they were all right next to me. The entire city of Zionsville. I will say this, and I think I can speak for all the dudes out there. Dudes, dig a watch. This place is ankle deep with incredible name brand watches, starting with Tag Heuer and others. So I'm just saying, Breitling, Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. MoyerFineJewelers.com/JMV. Make sure you fill out your sheet, your college football pick'em. The winner wins. It's a winner take all, a $2,500 gift certificate courtesy of Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. All right, a lot more to get to today. A little hoop. I know it feels strange. The Pacers don't play coming up until Thursday on the road. It's their first Western road swing. That is in Phoenix. Kevin Durant is indeed back, but that Suns team with him, really good. Without him, not so much. So, little hoopage, little college basketball, the calm before the storm. The Boilermakers have another matchup this weekend with another really good team. Matt Painter talked about last Wednesday with us. Actually, was it last Tuesday or last Wednesday? I can't remember. Last Tuesday, was it? Last Tuesday with us about preparing this team with a schedule before the long-term start of the Big Ten, and that's exactly what they're doing. Get Auburn coming up this weekend. We'll discuss that. Got some high school stuff for you as well, and a lot more in terms of college football, NFL conversation. And, again, that route in which the Colts could get to the postseason, I'm not touting it. I'm not suggesting they will prevail. But it does not seem as ridiculous as we once thought it might seem, and that was all because of the Chargers and their loss to the Buccaneers. We'll go over that coming up a little bit later on. Greg Rakestraw, Nate Atkins, me and you at 239-1070. Thank you all for the incredible birthday wishes from yesterday. It is awesome. And let me tell you this, at 55, I don't feel any different than I did at 54, at 45, or 35. Now, 25 is completely different. I felt completely different at 25 than I do at 55. So 30 years ago, that's different. But last 10, 15, 20, I'm feeling spectacular. I want to share the spectacular feeling with you all. That starts today. 55. Thank you all for those birthday wishes. It is incredibly kind of you to reach out in the fashion in which you did. All right, quick break. We'll come back inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Matt Goen says, sign up today. I'm telling you, make sure they have your back once the weather and the roads get inclement. AAA membership. That's the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. The stream, the app, HD Radio, and 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
No, Timberlake right here. I knew this song when he played it. I think I knew about 20% of what he played. Here's what I was getting at regarding Zaire Franklin, or anybody else for that matter, a member of the Colts that wants to get on social media and fire away or return fire. Now is just not the time. And this is exactly in detail of why JMV Franklin has never won anything. Freddie Keaho has more of a reason to talk junk than Franklin does. Did anybody answer Franklin with video of the statuesque tight end joking him to score for a touchdown? That's why. That is why. I know I hand out bad social media advice, but I think this is sound as a pound right here, everybody. If you're a member of the Colts, and if you're Zaire Franklin, who has certainly, since getting the podcast, become a lot more, shall we say, argumentative via social media about certain aspects, I would stand down and be quiet. That'd be me. You don't have to take that advice. I wouldn't suggest you would take that advice, but I wouldn't be jacking around in social media, because people also say, stop jacking around in social media and work on your craft, even if you are working on your craft. Who knows if you are or you aren't? It is, to me, just incredibly bad business. But, this is the type of crap that the Colts have been known for more than anything else here over the years, this type of stuff. Any number of things that's outside the window of winning football. Accomplishment football. Back to you in just a second. Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He is Greg Rakestraw, who joins us now. So what do you think about the route that needs to be taken by the Colts and all the help that is necessary for them to have a sniff whatsoever of postseason stuff? It was funny. I did think I thought it was going to be more rough than it actually turned out to be, but still, we're talking about the Colts here.
The Colts have to win 3 consecutive games, and I realize the level of competition they play, and that for those 3 teams, they're better off if they lose. I don't see the Chargers losing both of their last 2 games. Could they lose the next one to the Broncos? Absolutely. I don't see them spitting the bit against the last 2 teams they are playing, because those 2 teams are, frankly, as equally bad as the 3 the Colts are playing over the course of the last 3 games. So you're right, it's not overly complicated, and it's possible, but I don't see it happening from the Colts end, let alone from the Chargers end.
The disastrous second half on late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening in Denver, where would that rank for you in disasters and or disappointments with this team in the past handful of years?
We've got a lot to choose from, don't we? This is a pretty deep, pool to choose from. I would still put the Jacksonville game at the end of the 2021 season, given how bad that Jacksonville team was. I'd put that at the top of the list. And you use disaster and disappointment. Those can be 2 different things. Last year was a disappointment because you had it on your hands, you had it in your building, win and you're in terms of the division championship. And that didn't go well. But that team ridiculously overachieved with the talent they had to get to 9 wins. That can be a disappointment. 2021 was a disaster. 2022 was a disaster of a different kind. I'm not sure this is a disaster, but it's not good because, again, I think everyone acknowledged there would be some mistakes and missteps with Anthony Richardson, but thought there would be more progress from the team as a whole, which simply hasn't happened this year.
So where is, in terms of progress, and I vaguely would even call it that, with Anthony Richardson, where is he? And I take out last season where he missed basically the entirety of the season. Let's just say, for example, this is year number 1 or his first year of play. Where is he as far as progress is concerned to where, let's just say, for example, when he was drafted, no matter what you thought when he was drafted number 4 overall the year before last, where you thought he would be at this time?
I thought he would be further along in total. I do think he has made progress. You almost have to view this year in 2 different stints. even though it's really been 3. What we saw the 2 games after he came back and then benched for 2 games, that was better than what we saw at the beginning of the season. He's been better since that time. There is still progress to go. I thought it was great the first couple of series. Obviously, that unraveled as the game went along. The way I phrased in the postgame show, John, was this. I don't think we're having a referendum about Anthony Richardson coming back next year. I can tell you kind of disagree with that. I think he's going to be your quarterback next year, and you kind of make the long-term decision on him at the conclusion of next season.
Well, I think the reason why he comes back next season is because it's easy. There's no reason not to bring him back next season, right? So you're still wanting to go with it. I base my opinion on what I have seen, and I don't see it in the now, and I don't see it in the future. But that doesn't mean you go ahead and say, all right, we're going to Trey Lance this guy and send him packing or anything like that. So, and I also think, Greg, in terms of change, I think you change one and you change them all, general manager, coach, and quarterback. But you don't just do one, meaning sure. I don't think they're going to do that with Chris Ballard if they don't have intentions on doing it elsewhere at head coach and at quarterback, if that makes sense to you.
I understand that. And, again, I'm of the opinion they're probably not going to do any of those positions and that it gets run back again for another season. I worry about the fan base being at a tipping point from an apathy standpoint, if that is the case, and we'll see how the next 3 weeks play out and what plays out in the immediate aftermath of this regular season come the second week of January. I can make an argument for a couple different scenarios, but bottom line, what I think and what I think will happen oftentimes are 2 different things, and what I think the most likely thing would happen would be is that everybody is back in that particular position next year.
So Greg Rakestraw, he's kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Colts and Titans coming up this weekend. Mason Rudolph is, I guess, likely who the Colts are going to see, given the fact Levis was benched and Rudolph was in there. Did he give Tennessee a better chance to beat the Colts here?
Not really. we saw that back in October. And again, we are to a point with all of these teams that the Colts are playing that it is more beneficial for them to lose and get a better draft pick than it would be to actually win the football game. And it's not like there is this huge, stockpile of tremendous backup quarterbacks in the National Football League where it makes that big of a difference if you make the move on from Will Levis to Mason Rudolph. We've seen Mason Rudolph against the Colts and multiple teams. Not good. We've seen Will Levis against the Colts. Not good. I think from Tennessee, what that move is simply an admission, hey, Will Levis ain't our guy, and we're going to be in the market for somebody else next year. I don't think it's a ringing endorsement of Mason Rudolph.
So Greg Rakestraw with us. Let's make the move here to college hoop. You got IU, you got Purdue coming up Saturday. IU, Chattanooga at home, Purdue, and Auburn. Matt Bader talked about with me last week testing his team, and certainly they have been tested. That loss in Indy last Saturday to Texas A&M, a loss on the road at Marquette a little bit earlier. They have wins this season over Alabama, for example, Mississippi, North Carolina State. That was a Final Four team a year ago. What do you think the Boilers are? IU's basketball problems as well, and factor in that Butler's going back-to-back with tough schedules start the Big East at Marquette Wednesday and then UConn at Hinkle coming up on Saturday.
Well, you've heard me talk about Butler numerous times, and again, we'll learn more in the next 2 or 3 months, but I think they have the lowest bar of the 3 of them in terms of, for Butler, it's make the NCAA tournament or bust. That is what is going to make this a good season. For IU, I think the bar is higher than that. Are they going to play better than that? I have no idea. And Purdue is clearly an NCAA tournament team. Purdue obviously has a little more capital to work with in terms of goodwill from the fan base, given how last year went. But I think what we're learning about Purdue is that they're a good team. They're not a great team. They're a make-the-tournament team. They're a make-the-Sweet 16 team. But, again, everybody has at times I wouldn't say a rebuilding year, but just a year where maybe that talent level doesn't peak the way that it has as of late. This run that Matt Painter has been on in West Lafayette has been absolutely tremendous, and especially, kind of these 4 years after there was no tournament because of COVID, where, we've talked about this Purdue team doing great things on a yearly basis. And so I'm not sure that's the case this year, but I still kind of like their stock better than any of the other, better than IU, better than Butler, better than Notre Dame. But I don't think we're talking about this team as a Final Four team. Could they make a run? Sure, but they're not going to be one of the favorites like they have been the last couple of seasons.
Give us a quick break of IU-Notre Dame coming up on Friday, because obviously everybody's got that thing on the crosshairs and can't wait.
I think it's going to be a very close game, and I think these two teams tend to play in a very similar style. And again, I think in playing Notre Dame, I think it would be different if Indiana had to go down and play an SEC team in the South. I think this is, while they haven't played Notre Dame in 33 years, I think this is a team that is much more similar to them. I think this is a one-possession game in either direction on Friday night.
All right. What does IU have an advantage with the Fighting Irish here?
That's a good question. But I would say, I guess I would look at it as this. I'm not sure they have a huge disadvantage either in this game. So, you would say to what sort of degree an experience, because they've got such, kind of an older football team.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, I think these two teams are very much the same. Maybe Notre Dame slightly better in terms of athleticism, but in terms of what they do, I don't think there's that big of a difference between these two teams.
So Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, and you will hear him from 3 until 6 coming up tomorrow. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. I got to get down to Greene County and take G-Mama to Jasper. So thank you.
Well, I just assumed every time that I'm filling in for you, you're going to the meat locker.
I'm going right past it, so I'm pretty close to it at least.
I thought you were it had been like a couple of months. You were stocking up for the next couple of months, and I'd come back and do the show in February at some point.
Here's what's great. The awesome Andrew Schwarzentruber brought me a cooler full of meats a month and a half ago that I'm living on right now. It's awesome.
That level of customer, they now deliver to you several counties away.
What's great about it? He talks about all the time how people listen to this show from around here and go down there and mention that they heard it here, and that's why they go down and love it so much. So it is a helper. There's no doubt.
As someone that is responsible for selling advertising for a good chunk of the broadcasts he does, perhaps it is time that they officially advertise on the show, not just the remarkable word of mouth you have given them for all these years.
Exactly. All right, buddy. I appreciate you being in here tomorrow for me.
And a happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, Greg.
See ya.
Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Good question that was just asked of me. Because I mentioned next year Anthony Richardson to me is going to be back. There's no real reason I think that they're going to make any moves. They still want to see. That's how it's going to be positioned for you. And frankly, there's probably some truth to it. But at the same time, there's going to be no major. I mentioned Trey Lance. You don't need to Trey Lance this guy. Or I don't think they're going to do that. So if Richardson is back, what do you decide? Will you as the fan be good with it or apprehensive about going back? Are you, the fan, going to be apprehensive about going back, regardless of what transpires in these last 3 games of the season anyway? Will you struggle at returning next year, or will you be back unconditionally? James tells me to break. We'll answer those questions with you at 239-1070 on the other side. In fact, we have a full hour in the 4 to get all up and all over that. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, where you need to become a AAA member. Do that today, AAA.com. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
With JMV.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So, according to ESPN, the NBA All-Star Game is going to have an All-Star tournament this season. Everybody's doing the tournament thing. Seriously, an All-Star tournament this season, with the league announcing today that it's finalized plans to use a different format for the upcoming mid-season showcase in San Francisco. This season's format is a 4-team, 3-game, one-night tournament with 3 teams of 8 All-Stars apiece, and the 4th team being the winner of the Rising Stars Challenge. Last year, Matherin and the Rising Stars, how focused that dude was. So the winning team in all games will be the first to score 40 points. So what do we think about that format? Adam Silver, the commissioner, has wanted a more competitive All-Star event for a while now. Teams combined to score a record 397 points. 211, 186, if you remember, was the final last season here in Indy. 289 shot attempts last year, 94% of those being either inside the paint or beyond the three-point line. That means there was a lot of dunking and a lot of shooting threes. That's kind of what they do. That kind of mirrors things right now. And you could say, well, that's what they do that's what they do everywhere. If you were to run in the lane and then jump up in the air and try to hang forever and pass it or not know where you're going to pass it to, which used to be, remember you had to run laps for that back in the day. Anybody else out there have a coach tell you, never jump in the air, never go into the air, and we could all jump like an inch. Never get an inch in the air and not know where you're going to pass the basketball. If you do, it's stair laps for you, clown. Now it's like, wow, great. That's a great look. Look at him hang in the air and throw it out of bounds. There's your new All-Star tournament format, everybody. Yeah, listen, I know everybody is down. The numbers are down watching the NBA. It's still basketball. I still watch it all the time. I love it. I can't help myself. I know for one reason or the other, so many of you out there have been out of shape on the NBA, and I don't like it for this or for that. I just love basketball. I watch it all the time. I watch college all the time, too. They got me. They got to go out and get you. I don't know how they get you. Going to go out and get you. Because they got me. All right, quick one. We'll come back. Let's establish a point right here that I tried to make before we went into the last break. If you're a Colts fan right now, sitting where you are, let's just see, this team's outside the postseason, 3 games remaining, blah, 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 you know all that. Outside the postseason coming up and going into the offseason and into the 2025 year. Do you expect changes to be made? If no changes are made, no substantial changes are made, what changes have to be made for you to maintain? And if not, what will lead you not to want to return for 2025? Anything at all? Share your thoughts with me at 239-1070. You can do that on the other side. James says break, so I'll break. Me and you coming up next. Nate Atkins of the Star coming up after 5 o'clock. I have a ton of stuff to give away. My advice, stay right there. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Matt Goins says sign up today to have AAA have your back during this holiday season and the winter as well here in central Indiana. AAA.com for that. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
goes on, yeah, and the beat goes on. 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
My name is Mud. Boom, 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 boom. Gotta love this song. Is this better than Winona's Big Brown Beaver? Boom, 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 boom. Did you go see them this summer? I did want to bring this up. Doug mentioned this. Friend of the show, Northwestern guard Brooks Barnhizer. And I'm not a big fan of Barstool Sports. Not that I hate it or anything. I just don't look at it too often. I see it when it flies by, right? And that's okay. To each his own. But it says Northwestern's Brooks Barnhizer gets his teeth knocked out, surgery, and refuses to miss a game because he's got to be out there with his guys. And Doug mentions that's a level of badassery right there because that's a badass dude. You do not grow up anywhere near Mark Barnhizer without being a badass dude. Let me tell you that. And he is. A big fan. And you can see that. You can see that when he was little. That's exactly what you would expect. That was from yesterday on Barstool Sports where you can read more about it. Brian Thomas chimes in here. Dream scenario, JMV. Everyone comes back. Big three. AR is made to throw, and the Colts end up with a number 1 pick. Fire the big three and select Manning. You just gave so many people out there a bit of a sports arousal with that. True story. Nah, in fact, that's exactly what's going to happen. If you're asking me right, my opinion is that they're all three going to come back. You're talking about the big three, GM, head coach, and quarterback, all three back next year. And then they're going to say, here's the ultimatum. It is win or. And it seems like you've been told that 1,000 times. Win or else. That's going to be it. That's exactly how that's going to go down. It may go down differently this year, maybe, if there were more quarterbacks out there or if they were in a different spot. You know, being mediocre does take away some privileges of being a bad football team. It just does. Being mediocre does take away some of the privileges you can have of being a bad football team. However, who cares, because you just selected number 4 the year before last, and you got people around here thinking about doing it again or wanting to do it again, and that's not cool for anybody. My thought more than this, Brian, my thought is more of, will you hang around if major moves aren't made? Will you come back? Kurt writes this, have a great trip to God's country tomorrow. JMV, do you normally go to Schnitzelbank while in Jasper? My mom likes to go to a place called Snaps in Jasper. Snaps. I guess it has gator on the menu. I don't even know what's on the menu I can eat. My mom said they have ahi tuna. I think you're going to be okay. So good. Snaps, everybody. I'm just looking at it right here, Main Street in Jasper. And as you well know, I'm a huge fan of Jasper. Now, that is for me tomorrow, and Greg is in for me coming up tomorrow. Thank you very much. So thank you, Kurt, for that. BT says that the Oda Meat Locker make cottage cheese. I don't think they create their own cottage cheese, but I damn bet that somebody right there in that community makes cottage cheese. James, go ahead.
Had a caller, I believe he said his name was Tim, call in asking, do you think there's any chance that the Colts could potentially look into Sam Darnold at the end of the year?
I think there is zero chance. Right? None. I think, does he go someplace else after the season? And there's nothing spectacular, but he has helped get the Vikings where they are because they're still going to turn back to McCarthy. So a team that is, and I know you're going to say, well, the Colts are looking for a quarterback. Maybe as a backup. Maybe as a Flacco, because Flacco is not going to be here next year, right? As a backup. Just like Minshew wasn't here as a backup.
There's no way Darnold would take a backup role after this year, would he?
Is he going to have another choice, though?
I think he will.
Will he?
Yeah.
Has he been that good? I mean, I know they've been good, but in their losses Like, I'm saying, watching him play against the Colts, like the messes that were created, they were created by him.
I think he'll get an opportunity with some QB needy team.
QB needy team.
Some team that like.
Well, this
the
this
Colts
right
were
here.
like.
Well, this is a QB needy team, but he's right about that.
Some team following the Colts
Right.
blueprint from when all they were doing is cycling through veteran quarterbacks.
Right.
Someone like that.
This is definitely a QB needy team, and if you think otherwise, you're just kidding yourself. You are. Let me again tell you, I want this to work as much as anybody because it sets you back years upon years, and you've already been set back years upon years. You don't need more, but it's gonna. And I want this to be the right thing. But you tell me who in the world would rely upon that? You don't rely on it right now. You're going to rely on it next year. I mean, maybe there's this epiphany. Maybe everything changes. Lightning strikes and the thunder rolls. And all of a sudden, you've got a guy that understands, matures, and boom, there's your product. You going to hold your breath on that? Hey, I got to talk in the now. I can't tell you. Well, it depends on what happens next November because you guys are going to go, who gives a damn what happens next November? I'm caring about what happens at the start of next year. Because I think we've said it depends on next November. How many years now running have we said that? Well, it depends on, you'll know when half the season's over. I know I sure as hell said that last year. Sam Darnold, huh? Thank you for that. Skivvy says, City, run it back. Oh, that hurts me right there, though, buddy. Because I was on board with the Pacer, run it back. Did the Pacers in 2 games give us a reason to be just a tad bit sports aroused? Just a little bit? Or I like to reference it as a sports semi. I know it's 2 wins, 1 on the road in Philadelphia, and Embiid got slapped in the face and went out. And then New Orleans is an absolute train wreck. Do we see anything that might give us a bit of a sports semi? No? You might be right about that. But right now, I mentioned soaking in it a little bit earlier. I'm like soaking in the old run it back with the Pacers, and hey, this one's not looking good for me. Yeah, no doubt. No sirs, no dolts. Thank you. Rob writes this, so I'm firmly on the Curtis Rourke train for the Colts. 24 years old next year. Smart, makes great designs. Or decisions, I think you meant to say, but I understand what you're saying here, Rob, and can make every throw. Only question is mobility. But we saw that around here for a while, like 20 years ago. I'd be floored if they go direction like that, Rob. I think what they'll end up doing is sticking with what they have right now and then bringing in, maybe it would be somebody like Sam Darnold as a backup if there's no starting gigs out there. Somebody that is, quote unquote, more than competent if thrust into the starting position. Let's face it, too. We'll get back to when Richardson was benched. He was benched because they were showing the locker room that was bummed out about the helmet tap, and he needed to show up on time, and he wasn't, and all this stuff that I told you at the time. But what weighed even heavier at those moments is at the time they thought that they had a better chance of winning with Flacco. That is the truth. Don't be fooled by the lack thereof. The truth. Now, there are other reasons, but that made it easy. Like in my world, I go, wait a minute, you're supposed to take this guy all the way through all the bumps and the hills and the valleys and the roller coaster ride and all that crap. But that had more to do with, hey, we need to win some games, and I think this old man gives them more of an opportunity. It's an incredibly true story right there. Is Jim Sorgi available to play next year? Boiler Uprights. Jim Sorgi's son is out at Tri-West and is a young high school, good-looking QB, by the way. I love Sorge, I do. I've not seen Jim in forever. I always felt bad. I always had a take with Peyton Manning back in the day where I said, people always said, they don't give him proper backup. They don't give him, like, for example, right now, James, we're talking about Sam Darnold, who is leading a team in the NFC right now to a good record, and you're talking about him coming in here and maybe being a backup next year. Well, when Manning was here, people would always bring up, you need a better backup. You have to have a backup just in case. And my take was always, all right, so here's the problem. Who cares if you have a backup? If you lose 18, everything's over. Season's done. It doesn't matter who you have as backup. And then our good friend Jim Sorgi is the backup going, hey, jackass, I'm right here, please. Can you stew it? I thought you were my friend, jackass. I always thought bad about that take. I would say it, and then I go, oh, man, I like Jim Sorgi so much. It sounds so terrible.
Of course, then 2011 happened, and you got proven correct.
Yeah. No, that was the Bill Polian. You give me $4 million, and I'll go get Kerry Collins off the couch, and this team will still make the postseason. And he got, $4 million, I think it was back then, and Kerry Collins came off the couch. Remember, he's playing country music on his couch. Came off the couch, and, well, didn't work. JMV from Jeff. At least the Pacers are showing an effort to get better, unlike the other team. I've got to hope that there's a little spark there with the blue and gold. Think we'll see anything in Phoenix coming up on Thursday? A little bit of spark, anything? I've got to have some spark. Because so far, not so good. My run it back take, I love it, has not gone over well to this point. And it does, and you're right. Skivvy's brought it up. You know, that's what the Colts always talked about. That's problematic for me right there. So, hey, Pacers, I should have gone down to that area on the floor last night during Timberlake and said, hey, Tyrese, can we get this thing expedited here a little bit? Can you get going? My good name's on the line here. Timberlake was really good last night. And I know that's not really my era. I think I knew maybe 5, 6 of the songs. Dude's an entertainer, there's no doubt. I always wondered, too, so much is built around him dancing. So if you, pull a muscle or something, or roll an ankle, and I know those shoes probably cost more than a year's worth of salary for all of us out there, but he looks like he's wearing shoes that he got at Kmart. So if those Kmart shoes that he had on, if he rolled his ankle during one of these dance moves, do you just have to postpone the show? All right, we're done. Because you couldn't hop around. I'll give you a great example. Like Dave Grohl, if you remember, broke his leg years ago. And then I went to the Foo Fighters show at Ruoff, and Grohl is in some big throne they created with guitars all over it so he could still play because he was sitting on his throne. Not a toilet, but a throne, you know what I mean? So he was still playing. So if Timberlake rolls his ankle in his Kmart track shoes, do you just go, yeah, we're done? That's had to have happened. And it floors me the shape you have to be in to do that. Because he's 43 years of age, and there is not much stopping going on there. Would you describe that as athletic, James? Is Timberlake athletic? I think that's athleticism, isn't it?
Definitely.
I tried to do some of that stuff in the mirror last night. I go, I just don't look the same. What happened? So, yeah, you roll your ankle and the show's over. Hey, sorry, everybody. I will also say this. I think that everybody in that building last night, there was a guy that DJ'd, the hype man DJ'd before the show started. His name was Andrew Hypes. Look up Andrew Hypes, James. His name was Andrew Hypes. He had a man bun, and he kind of looked like DJ Helicon here locally, whom I love. But he had a man bun working and everything. DJ Andrew Hypes. I think everybody at Gamebridge last night would have been cool if he would have just played the entire time. Seriously. I think everybody around here gets off more on DJs than they really do the live performances. That was just my thought. Everybody was hyped. He did his job. All right, you can look that up in a second. 239-1070. Andrew Hypes is his name. He kind of looks like you, but you got more of a ponytail. He's got a man bun. That's DJ Helicon. Man bunnish, kind of. Is he on? Is he anywhere? What's it say about him? Andrew Hypes. He's good.
I mean, I've got his Spotify pulled up.
He licks his fingers too, like when he's like mixing.
Okay,
wow.
Here we go. He's a multi-talented artist hailing from Waynesboro, Virginia.
Okay.
Let's see what else is on here. He's immersed himself in various genres from a young age, drawing inspiration from artists like Tribe Called Quest, Public Enemy, George Clinton, and Prince.
So we get along really well right there. That's right up my alley. Yeah.
Should put him on the takeover.
He good. Skids would get upset about that. He'd be he's licking his fingers and so yeah.
Is that a thing with DJing? You lick your fingers?
I think you did when it was like vinyl and albums. I don't know if you do when you're working a computer like that. I suck at it though. That's one thing. If there's one thing I'd like to do better is that. I can't do it at all. All right, 239-1070. I mentioned this. If the Colts don't make any major decisions this offseason, anybody going to be out of the picture? Or are you guys going to hang regardless? Just out of curiosity. Bang away at that question at 239-1070. If you're Jim, hello, Jim. How are you?
I'm good. How are you,
Jim? I'm outstanding. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, we've talked about this before. It's a GM school here. We've been teaching this guy how to be a GM ever since he's been here, and he sucks. And you know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. And we've got to fix our problem at the offensive line, and we need a different head coach or something like Lincoln Riley or somebody to come in and coach up a quarterback that has superior talent. And, you know, I don't agree with all the crap that he did about he's got to be coached up. You got to be coached up.
Now, if they don't make a major decision on the general manager or the coach or the quarterback, will you be out or will you maintain? Will you be on board with this squad in 2025?
Oh, I'm definitely out because the GM he has to be replaced. He's got to be.
I think like 3 years ago, you're right, yeah.
Maybe even the head coach. I mean, Steichen hasn't really proved anything.
Listen, I said yesterday, I think this squad, from top to bottom, really, I think it needs a complete overhaul. It just does. I mean, really everywhere. Organizationally speaking, you need an overhaul going on here because this just hasn't worked. Piecing this together in the fashion in which they have hasn't worked. And I maintain that if you get rid of Chris, then you might as well go ahead and wipe the slate clean on this because you're going to bring in a general manager that wants Shane as a head coach and wants Richardson as the quarterback. I mean, don't you cut down those you're choosing from if that's the criteria that you're hiring with this general managing position. I know there's always going to be somebody available for the job. Somebody would take it, but will you cut down those really good candidates because they don't want a part of it? Just curious.
Oh, yeah. Sure, absolutely. But like the Colts, if you miss a piece of the puzzle, like Pierce going down, there's your deep threat. It's out of the game. Boom. You have nobody to replace him. That's our GM's fault. I mean, we have to have people in place, and we just don't have that.
Thank you, Jim, for the call. You call anytime. Jim said he'd be out. Rex asked if Timberlake did his song Crank in a Box. He did not. He does that on SNL. That's one of the more famous, especially this time of year, one of the more famous SNL skits, Crank in the Box. You seen that, James, with Andy Samberg before? You've seen that. Come on now. Where they have the
okay. I do know what you meant.
Yeah.
I thought
where they kind of look like what I play for Mike Wells. It's kind of like a Color Me Bad offshoot, kind of, right, from the early 90s. He and Andy Samberg kind of dress up like that.
Mm-hmm.
Crank in the Box. They did not play that, Rex. To my knowledge, he didn't do any NSYNC stuff. I don't know. Maybe contractually he can. I'm not sure. Sarah says Hypes was awesome. He was good last night. Josh says, I think he had to cancel recent shows for back issues. Hey, JMV, Tyrese was too busy singing his ass off last night. Brought sexy back in there last night. Let me ring up Jeff really quick here before the break. We'll get to everybody else if you're on hold. Jeff, welcome to the show. How are you?
JMV, I'm good. Hey, a couple things.
Yes, sir.
Number one, that caller before me, did he call Richardson superior talent?
Superior talent. I don't know. Did I miss superior talent? I should have been all over that. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a couple things for you, a couple takes. Number one, a zebra doesn't change the stripes. Anybody, and I listened to the two media guys that did the game, they want like hell for these running quarterbacks to succeed. And typically the running quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls, okay? They've got to have some passing about them. Richardson can't make a completion on down and outs, 5-yard, 10-yard down and outs. It's not going to change. Anyone that thinks this is going to change probably does not know sports at all, because you're not going to change who he is. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, you've got somebody like a Purdy, okay? And why is Purdy so good? Because Purdy's got a lot going around him. He's got great tight ends, great receivers, good running game.
And they're not good right now because the guys have been injured too. So
true. And he's still doing a nice job, I think. But my point is, you got to have some stuff to go around him. Other than the defensive line, I really don't know an area of the Colts that really is any good. I think the defensive line has actually done a pretty good job this year. So
it struggled at the outset. There's no question about it, but it has gotten better. And you know, and Buckner's health has played a role in that. He missed a lot of the first month or so of the season, so that's been a big deal too.
Yeah, and then the last thing is, if you don't change, Steichen's play calling has been terrible. I mean, that go along with the interception last week. It was what it is, but his play calling all year. If you watch Andy Reid and those guys, it's so creative, and you got to be creative. I said this last year. You got to do misdirection. We finally had a game where we did misdirection last year. We won, and now we're back to the same boring garbage or these ludicrous passes that you got a receiver throwing. So Steichen and the GM have got to go, and unfortunately, if Irsay's still involved, they're probably not. But if you want to know if I'm in or out, I wouldn't go to a game if you gave me 50-yard line passes on the field for these last three. It's so embarrassing and so bad. And the biggest problem is that egomaniac GM. He's a clown, and he's done nothing but maybe a couple decent picks. Ryman's probably a decent pick. Other than that, we've got 4 tight ends, and this is a tight end league too, that are terrible. None of them are any good. They can't catch. They can't block. So you're right. It's a blow up, but you have gone back so far. It's I don't even know if a blow up.
I think you're a number of years anyway, without question. Jeff, thank you for the call. I do have to hit a break here. We will. I am going to ask you. I mentioned this yesterday. Jim Irsay has been incredibly quiet about Sunday. In the past, that hadn't been the case. We'll get on that coming up on the other side. Your calls too at 239-1070, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live and 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Weirdos and motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, tomorrow I'm out. Greg Rakestraw's in. Evidently, I'm going to be in Jasper at the end of tomorrow. I'll see you down there. I love Jasper, though. Andy Reid says full of confidence in Carson Wentz if Mahomes is out. Carson Wentz, of course, the former quarterback here, was the backup in KC, took over for a hobbled Patrick Mahomes and could be in line. According to sources, the Titans benching Will Levis week 16. That would mean Mason Rudolph, the starter, coming up Sunday here in Indy. That is the latest there. He got benched on Sunday anyway, so that's the expectation. I saw Lashley, the head coach at SMU, says in the terrible December portal window. That is kind of odd, to say the least. Hey, JMV, the Colts fired number 18, the first of many bad decisions, complete rebuild needed. That kind of strikes me, too. And I know that, there was the Andrew Luck waiting in the wings or whatever there, but everybody seems like I'd understand if you're bent out of shape because of the decision and how much that decision, if it doesn't work, sets you back. But pulling the Band-Aid off of anything around here, and I mean anything around here, should be lightweight compared to what you went through when they cut Peyton Manning, for God's sake. They cut Peyton Manning. Yes. So everything else should be, whatever. And I know you take it like it's the end of the world, and for a lengthy period of time, it kind of is, because it sets you back, your organization, but also so does not making those tough decisions too, as we have seen. Or in this case, your organization is set back by just being profoundly mediocre. You're in the no man's land of the NFL. Hey, you know what? You can finish just a game above 5, but everything is okay. We're on the way, on the path, the right path, when really, when you look further down the road, you look in the horizon, what do you honestly see? What stands out is, this is really going to materialize into something special. Anybody do that for you right now? I'm not trying to preach doom and gloom to you, but that is just the stark reality of the situation. It is more about where you are presently. It's also about where you're going. And I think it's fair to ask, is this the correct path with those that are leading you right now? And I believe I've had the answer from most of you to this point. 239-1070 is the number. If you guys want to hop on board, you can. And Terry's going to join me next. Hello, Terry. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, John? Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir, Terry. Thank you, buddy.
I'm going to jump right to it. I got a question for you and any Colts fan or football fan or really just anybody listening.
Yeah.
Would you, when considering the head coaching position of an NFL team, would you consider that a full-time job or maybe just kind of a part-time job? Dumb question, right?
Yeah. Is it in terms of Shane Steichen doing two jobs? The head coach and the offensive coordinator? Is that what you're asking?
Would you consider the offensive coordinator position of an NFL team to be a full-time job or a part-time job?
I think in some places that you can have overwhelming input by an offensive or a defensive-minded head coach, and it's going to work. But, again, all of these personalities are not built the same. And I think if we've been taught anything so far, that it seems like moments as head coach and play caller and offensive coordinator swamp Shane Steichen after 2 years. Is that what we're getting at here? Because that's how I feel.
I think it's one thing if you're an established head coach who is offensively minded and you get in a position where you take a head coaching job You've proven you're a head coach. You've proven you're an offensive coordinator. And you delve in to try to handle both full-time jobs for one of only 32 NFL teams. All while a general manager sits over here twiddling his thumbs, yucking it up with Jim Boy, and he's got two positions that are not getting professionally handled. That's where I want everybody to be thinking about today.
Terry, you made the argument differently, but I think I've talked about for a while here too. There are some guys that can handle both and handle it well, and maybe you're going to have, like, for example, if you're a defensive-minded coach, you're going to have somebody that's going to maintain and stay on top of the defense that you trust for you, but you're still going to be probably the overwhelming decision maker there, and some guys are just better in handling that than others, and I think we've seen so far in almost 2 years that it does not look like that this is beneficial for the Colts in their head coaching situation. I would agree.
I think it really takes a special guy, one that's proven that he's a head coach, a special guy that can effectively handle both jobs at once.
Is it fair to also say that maybe we haven't seen what Shane Steichen is truly all about yet as well, because he's got a quarterback that can't throw it through a tire 15 yards down the field? Is that fair to say?
Well, yeah, I guess you can put that in his column, but let me tell you something.
But he did want, as far as I know, he wanted Richardson as much as anybody else. So, I mean, that is on his shoulders. And there are a lot of different angles you can take on this, but I think that your starting opinion is one of accuracy here. I think you can, I mentioned as being swamped or overwhelmed. I think you can be overwhelmed in those moments when you have so much going on and lose sight of things. And some can handle it well and some can't. And, so far, I think you've seen that, to me, Shane needs some help in that category.
Absolutely. He either needs to give up the play calling and concentrate on being a head coach, or he needs to move on and continue being an offensive coordinator somewhere. I'm sorry. That's just the way that he's not impressive in any particular area. He's unimpressive with his emotional stability. And how can you?
Well, and let me tell you this. I tried to play the role yesterday. Terry, thank you for the call. I tried to play the role. I actually said something like this yesterday, and I described it as a dime a dozen, and people got mad. Like, a dime a dozen? What are you talking about? That's such a backhanded slap, and it's not. What I meant was that if you put Shane in a situation in Philadelphia and Sirianni in a situation here, we're cussing out Sirianni right now. And then Shane has the benefit of having Hurts in that offense. If you put Callahan, take him out of Nashville, put him in Philly, and then put Sirianni in Nashville, then everybody in Nashville is all over Sirianni. Catch my drift? And what I meant by a dime a dozen, there are a lot of these offensive-minded gurus out there, but not many of them can handle absolutely every aspect that is going on as head coach. And you need help. And I mentioned help in terms of those around you coaching-wise, but you need more than that, help on the field and somebody you can trust, somebody that's going to be good. And, as much as I've talked about Shane, in year number 2 here, and I know that he likes Richardson. I know that he still likes Richardson, but he's got a guy that you cannot trust in so many different situations in the most important position in sports. And this is not an excuse for him. I'm just telling you, this is an angle that plays a role in all of this. And the angle is another piece that doesn't fit. And also another piece that plays off of, if you don't have that guy in the now and for the future playing the most important position in sports, you're screwed. Not that he doesn't want to try, not that he's working on it, not that he's not a great runner and he shakes dudes off like crazy trying to sack him. That is all great. But decision-making and putting the football wherever you want it. These great quarterbacks, these high-level quarterbacks, these good quarterbacks, hell, at times, half-ass quarterbacks put the ball wherever they intend in throwing it. Those that don't. And that's problematic for everybody. And especially the guy trying to juggle a couple of different acts at that particular level. Couple of thoughts. Terry, thank you for the call. If you're on hold, I'll get back to you coming up on the other side as well. Nate Atkins of the Stars is going to join us coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Toto, Men at Work, Christopher Cross, August the 5th, Ruoff Home Mortgage Music Center. That is going to be an outstanding evening of music in Hamilton County. Got a chance for you to win those coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Stay right there. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Become a AAA Hoosier Motor Club member and do that today. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
David Letterman!
Hi, David. I'm Grandpa.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Coach's Tavern downtown on Friday. Tommy S. will orchestrate one hell of a Bud Light Blue Friday for us. We'll get you set, too, for IU and Notre Dame. Who's going? Tell me out there, phoneth me or emaileth me or send me something via social media if you got tickets to that game in Southern Michigan coming up on Friday night. At IU and the University of Southern Michigan, I want to know if you're going. I want to know how much you paid to get those tickets. And I want to know what time you're stopping at the Hip Hugger. All that. 3-prong question for you right there at 239-1070 and more. The Hip Hugger. How much are you paying if you're going? I've heard, for example, I've heard that one of my friends, the Smiley Bros, Sean Collinsworth, is going. That's who that is right there? Oh, I'm sorry. He's going. I don't know how much he paid. I'll just get a video of, I take some shots. When I'm in studio, I go down with Hammer and Nigel and take, should I say that out loud? We kind of hang out in their office a little bit, kind of go over stuff. They got a weird, this is an AI video of Nigel making out with people in this video here. Can you create an AI video like this? Is kind of grossing me out. What the hell was that? Can you make AI videos that look like that?
Oh, yeah. AI is really scary these days with what you can make.
God almighty. So, does he have to kiss somebody to make this happen?
No, I think you just give it a photo or a video of you, and you can take that and turn it into whatever that is you're watching over there.
We're really screwed, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
In the future.
Oh, yeah. AI's scary, man.
We're really screwed. Huh. I don't know if I ever want to see that again. Hey, Collinsworth checks in, by the way. Smiley Bro, but they do know the number one DJ, not just in America, but in the city of Indianapolis, would be me. Thank you very much, Smiley Bros. I'm glad that Dave Smiley takes that well. I don't know this, Josh, off topic, but where did Bar Reeve get its name? What did it stand for? Is it 2 townships in Montgomery County, Josh? That's what I'm guessing here. I don't know if I've ever asked. I think it's 2 townships. Did I say Montgomery County? That is wrong, in Davies County. I should say 2 townships, and then Bar Reeve, the school, is in Montgomery, Indiana. And it's right on the line of Martin and Davies County. But I think it's 2 townships. I could be wrong. I know it's not 2 towns. By the way, I will say this. If you're talking about Bar Reeve, and we brought up Odin Meat Locker, on a Friday night, when you get into the spring, every other Friday night, they have a place called Dinky's. It's a huge auction house down in that area. Please go. A lot of Amish, a lot of trading going on. It's pretty awesome. Go check it out sometime. Thank me later. Dinky's is what it's called. Is my man Joe Childers on hold right here? Joe Childers, the Joe Childers of the 13 Express Pro Tire and Auto locations here in Central Indiana. That Joe?
Hey, John, how are you? I just wanted to wish you a belated happy birthday.
Man. That is kind of, thank you very much, and thank you for maintaining the health of my vehicles, my brother.
Well, I just want to tell you and tell all your customers on their birthday, stop by at Indy, their neighborhood Express Pro Tire and Autos, and get a free oil change. So, John, we owe you one. And I know the boys down at the Smith Valley area are going to be looking forward to taking care of you on that.
Well, I just talked to Mike day before last. So Mike and I talk all the time. So we do.
I
We talk all the time. They actually, I took the truck. I'm at 360K right now, Joe, on the truck. So we're trying to maintain that as much as possible. They had to blow out some of the heat lines, I think. There was something going on with the foam, and they fixed it right up for me.
There you go. You know, it's a big party when that truck reaches 500K, right?
It's going to go into the Vehicle Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it off of you and use it in a commercial. But thanks for everything you do for us. And back to the Colts, I think we need a flush there, brother. Yeah. And for what my opinion's worth. But anyway,
in terms of auto, you need a flush and fill, is what you're saying right here.
That's what I'm saying, sir. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Listen, enjoy the rest of your week, your birthday week. Happy holidays to you and your family, and look forward to seeing you soon, okay?
That is the awesome Joe Childers, Express Pro Tire and Auto, 13 locations. By the way, ask for Mike at US 31 and Stop 11, and oftentimes you'll drive by and you'll see the Tundra parked there. It is at 360K, and they are the major reason why it's at 360K, and it continues to move right down the road. Well done, guys. Thank you. Just great folks. Do we have anybody call in that's going to the game? Just curious. Going to the game on Friday, too. I want to know how much you pay for your tickets. Hey, Collinsworth, how much did you pay for those tickets on Friday? And is it going to be cold? What's the temperature? South Bend, and look at Friday night, not like Friday in the afternoon, not the high, but what is going to be Friday night, James? Would this be weather conducive of my body going? And I can't because I'm doing Bud Light Blue Friday with you guys at Coach's Tavern anyway. And then we're going to watch the game and have a whole lot of beers afterwards. What's the weather say? South Bend, Indiana on Friday evening. James, what are we talking?
I am seeing a high of 33 degrees that day in South Bend.
So it is going to be...
And it's going to be periods of sun with flurries, a low of 23.
So it's going to probably be around 25 degrees around game time, right?
I would imagine, yes.
Yeah, that's probably not conducive to me being a part of that outdoors, right?
And
I'd imagine I'd sit on the bar stool for that one.
And some wind gusts of up to 18 miles per hour.
Man, those games in southern Michigan, it's beautiful. It's beautiful up there this time of year in southern Michigan. Hey, quick break. We'll come back. 5 o'clock hour has me, has you, has Toto tickets to give away, and Nate Atkins of the Star. Stay right there. AAA Membership Lounge, YouTube Live. Thank you guys for joining us. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Eric writes this, JMV. If you were at Grand Park, I could kidnap you and have you back in your car in 1.5 hours with 2 dances and 3 waters and beer. Still feel free. Regarding the hip hugger, yeah, I don't know if I want to be kidnapped. I mean, I'd probably just, if you were to ask me, I probably just would go. I think I need to be kidnapped. But that's pretty funny.
Is it still called kidnapping when the person you're abducting is a grown adult?
Old man napping. Is that what you're saying? That's a shot. That's a shot at the age guy right here. Let's see what you're doing there. It's not lost on me, that shot on the host of this show right there. Hey, out tomorrow, Greg Rakestraw is in. If anybody's ever been to Jasper, obviously I go to Jasper often because I love Jasper. So anybody's ever been to Snaps, let me know. Corbin, who has been, Corbin had a gig down there, remember, at WITZ, WITZ, AM and FM, Jasper Huntingburg. That's a legendary station down in southern Indiana. WITZ. But our Corbin worked down there, named after Corbin Burnson, the actor, and Roger Dorn from Major League. Played third base. Did you know that Corbin's named after Corbin Burnson?
I did not.
Of L.A. Law fame, too? You didn't know that?
No.
Snaps Restaurant. Anybody from Jasper, ask Scott Rowland if he knows about Snaps Restaurant and then tell me. Because evidently that's where G wants to go tomorrow, to Snaps Restaurant. I've been looking at the lunch menu. Gator snaps, James, are on it. A healthy portion of alligator bites. Hand-breaded in our signature Cajun breading. Can't do that.
Gator's good, though.
I do love Gator. I agree. I'm trying to find things that I can get. Wait a minute. Bison burger. I can get I can do bison burger. I can do the bison burger without everything else on it. Lightly seasoned catfish. Lightly seasoned catfish. Yeah, maybe. Turkey burger. I can do turkey. I don't even do salads right now. I probably could do a salad, but.
Do you ever do the burger where they don't put it on a bun, but they have it wrapped up in a lettuce leaf?
You know how incredibly pretentious that looks? See, part of it, too, and I do recognize, it's not lost on me how big of an a-hole I look like when I'm eating. That's why I maintain a lot of what I do at my house. Because when I go out, I sound like when Harry met Sally. I sound like Sally trying to make an order, and I go, God, is somebody going to run over here and beat the hell out of my ass here? And they should, because that's how I sound. So it's not lost on me at all. Snaps, Jasper. Thank you. Hey, Thursday, by the way, we're at Ale Emporium. That's the Hermanaki Wings location. You guys love that. Greenwood, Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots. Coming up on Thursday, we're trying to track down Molly McGrath, did you say, of ESPN? As a part of IU-Notre Dame coming up on Friday. Awesome. And then Friday, Coach's Tavern downtown. Tommy S. and us on a Bud Light Blue Friday with Colts tickets to give away. I'll have some Bullseye event passes for you as well. And then we'll watch IU-Notre Dame football inside the Coach's Tavern shortly thereafter. So I'd love to see you later on this week, but Greg Rakestraw in for me tomorrow. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, Nate Atkins of the Star, friend of the show, joins us now. Hello, Nate. How are you?
Doing well, John. Still trying to figure out what the heck we watched 2 days ago.
Yeah. Was that the low point? I don't know. Forgive me for that. How long you've been covering the Colts? I go back long enough to where there have been plenty of low points, especially in the post-Golden era, the Manning era. Plenty of low points. I thought Sunday would be described among those. Where would that rank for you in covering this team?
Yeah, so I got here mid-season 2021, and so I lived through 2022, which was kind of like low point after low point, but that was almost sort of like that was kind of unsurprising at a certain point. It sort of fit the brand.
It was comedy. It was comedy. Philip Lindsay was on me last week and was awesome. Absolute gold in explaining that.
Yeah, no, he was that that was not surprising to hear what he had to say. That was funny though. But yeah, I'd say Sunday in Denver felt in a weird way, its own way, like that final game in Jacksonville in 2021, where it was like right in the moment when they tasted their chance to go to the postseason. That's when everything kind of went haywire. Different ways too. I mean, that's 2021 felt like the absolute low moment because I didn't think there was any way they could lose to that Jaguars team, and they got blown out by them. Sunday, going into it, I picked the Broncos to win. It was not a surprise that that's how it would go, but the swing of that game to go from what looked like they were up 20-7 to losing by 18. I don't know if I've ever seen a swing from in one game with something on the line. We saw it in that Vikings game in 2022, the greatest collapse in NFL history. But again, that was sort of, it was surprising quite how that played out, but not that team did that. This one, though, I think if it's so many things that led to it, but you start with that Jonathan Taylor flip of the ball, I think if they score that touchdown, I don't think there's any way they lose, mainly because I don't think Bo Nix could have come back and beaten them. And so it was just amazing to see a game shift on one play, even though it came down to a lot of other plays that happened after that. But it was almost like the entire poise and collective identity of that team, from the coaches down to the players, at least on the offensive side of the ball, it just kind of rotted away. And it's going to be a game that I think a lot of players, coaches, and fans look back on for a long, long time as sort of like, that was a turning point. That was the moment they were going to go to the playoffs and feel validated and feel like they had an offensive identity in that backfield, and they were heading in the right direction with Anthony Richardson. To who knows what exactly is going to come next, but it's going to be tough to make the postseason now.
So, do you view that? We got a lot more to get to out of Sunday and then moving ahead to this Sunday as well. But Nate, do you view that as a possible now? You mentioned that as a game shift. Do you view that as a possible here further down the line organizational shift once the season's complete?
Yeah, I think so. The moment I think back to in that game of the many moments that was there was shortly after. It was somewhere in that stretch. I think it was maybe after the fourth down miss to Josh Downs. One of those missed possessions. They had 9 in a row to finish the game, but Anthony Richardson was standing by himself on the sideline with nobody around him, just sort of fuming. And it was like, even though he was not having a good game up to the point where they could have taken that 20-7 lead, they were going to make the game not about him in the season and its outcome of going to the playoffs, not ultimately about him. And he was able to play a role in, these past 2 wins before that, leading game-winning drives. And so this entire season for Anthony Richardson, kind of no matter what happens from here on out, was going to have a lot of rocky moments, but it was going to have it's already had a couple of high moments, but they were going to kind of be on track to make the postseason and just keep this rolling. And right now, a lot of things are going to be up in question. You focus more on the fact that Anthony Richardson all of a sudden had to lead this team back when they're down in that game rather than just finish it out. He wasn't able to do that. They weren't able to do that. Now, it's unless they can get some help from around the league and win these final 3 games, this is unlike, it's not going to be a playoff season for them unless they get that kind of help. And so when you aren't winning and you have kind of these struggles that Anthony Richardson has had this season, from the benching to sub 50% completions to right now more interceptions than touchdowns, when that comes without the winning, that's when the questions grow louder. I think back to Josh Allen's second season. His first season, the Bills only won 6 games. His second season, though, he was just okay, but they made the playoffs. And even though they lost the playoffs on kind of some gaffes from him, you're correcting off of positive momentum as a team. The team was able to kind of lift him up. Like, less focus was going to be on his individual struggles until that next year was the pivotal year, and that's when he took off. That's what the hope was, and they were going to that place with Anthony Richardson where no matter how he played down the stretch here, so long as, obviously they could lose these final few games and it would change it, but they were on a trajectory to just beat some bad teams, get into the playoffs, and go into next year and kind of have all this stuff still rolling. Now I think there's going to be a lot of questions as far as kind of what you do about this regime, from the front office down to the coaching staff and they're all kind of connected in there. Anthony Richardson to Shane Steichen to Chris Ballard, it was this marriage that was supposed to kind of carry forward, but also be very patient. They wanted to give this, 3 seasons, and it's just been interrupted so much between the shoulder injury the first year, the benching this year, but now it felt like they had this chance to get out of that, at least in time, in terms of buying them time into next year with a playoff appearance. I think a lot of things get a lot more murky now, and it's sped up the evaluation on this Anthony Richardson project, which is what they wanted to avoid. They didn't want to have to rush themselves into decisions on whether this all is working, and that's what, winning and making the playoffs, that buys you the time to kind of have that long trajectory like Josh Allen got, and in some ways like Jalen Hurts got when he made the playoffs in his second season starting, even though he didn't play great. They needed that kind of an outcome for this team around Anthony Richardson, and instead, unless they're going to need some help, they're going to need to win out, and maybe that can still happen, but it is a lot harder now than it was going to be when they were up 19-7 in Denver.
So I got to live in the moment, as do you, when we're asked questions about the Colts. So let's just say this is where we are and the season's over. I maintain this, Nate. I say that if they get rid of the GM or the coach or decide they're not moving forward with the quarterback, that you got to do all three, right? You don't just do one, you do all three. And I think the tack that will be taken here is I think it's logical to assume that they could win out or at least get close to it and then position this as, look what we accomplished down the stretch, and then next year for general manager, head coach, and quarterback is the make or break season. And sitting here right now, I don't think they do anything whatsoever. However, the opinionated me thinks that this whole thing organizationally, top to bottom, players included, needs an overhaul. Because I think they've been stuck in this rut for such a long time that it's clear they're never going to get out of it. There's not that light at the end of the tunnel really on anything that you see, and the quicker that you recognize that and try to move on from it, the better. That's what I think should happen, but what I believe is going to happen is completely different, and I think it's going to be organizational run it back again. What say you?
Well, as far as what they're going to do, I'll be honest, this is about as much as I've struggled to predict that since I've gotten here, just because we don't hear anything from Jim Irsay these days, and that's what's been totally different from the past 3 seasons when I've been here. You usually have some indication, from either his Twitter presence or things he's saying publicly that he's either really fed up and wants to blow some things up, or that he's, defending, certain pillars of the organization, that he wants them to stay. I mean, it was very clear at the end of 2021 that Carson Wentz was not going to be back with this team, and that was going to be the issue. It was very clear early in 2022 that Frank Reich was on the outs here, and that was sort of the guy who was going to take the blame in that moment. Right now, I don't know entirely where he stands because he's been out of the spotlight. So I think it could go a couple different ways. The most likely outcome, if they do win the final 3 games, is probably what you said, is that they'll keep status quo, just because that's betting on a trend to continue, especially with Chris Ballard. And I do think for the most part he sees, Chris Ballard hired Shane Steichen, drafted Anthony Richardson, and so there's some connection there. But what's kind of throwing a wrinkle into it is that they're on different timelines from the jump with this, because Shane and Anthony got here last season, but Chris Ballard's in year 8 here. And so that's what's kind of playing into the spot that I think the fan base is in, where if this was just year 2 of a brand new regime, if they had reset after 2022, I think you would have, people wouldn't be, thrilled necessarily with how Anthony's playing, or the fact that, they just got nearly eliminated from the playoffs, but it would have a different feel as far as that the fan base is in on the overall trajectory here. I compare it to, the team I covered before this was the Lions, and I left just before Dan Campbell arrived, but they did that clean sweep of brought in Dan Campbell, brought in Brad Holmes as the GM, brought in Jared Goff as a quarterback. They win 3 games their first year. Really bad season. The second year they start 1-6, but they finish 9-8, but they don't make the playoffs. But there was like positive momentum because this whole group is new. This whole group was 2 years in. When you have a GM who's 8 years in, they're sort of looking at, this head coach quarterback combination was supposed to lift this whole thing out of it. It hasn't been good enough with Chris Ballard. It hasn't won a division title, or it's won 1 playoff game. This was supposed to be the thing that was different, was getting him a quarterback, tying him with a coach who's going to get the most out of that quarterback. And that, I think that whole, disjointed timeline has sped up the evaluation on all of them, is that these guys have not come in and saved this yet. I'm talking about Richardson and Steichen have not come in and turned this franchise around yet, and they were expected to do it quicker because of how long everyone's waited. 11 years now without a AFC South title, for this franchise that, had won something like 9 and 12 years before that. So I don't know entirely. I agree with you. I think you have to. I would conjoin them all. But I would have said that back in 2022 as well. I think you get in a dangerous spot when you have pillars on different sides of this, because you could make an argument right now that it is too early to pull the plug on Richardson and Steichen when they've, had these disjointed moments of the injury and, still a young quarterback and all of that. But you can't make that argument for the GM. But the GM is the boss ahead of those other guys, and you don't want to, you severely limit your pool if you're going to hire a new GM to tell him, hey, we want to keep this coach and this quarterback. And even if he's willing to do that at the start, I've been in that spot too, where the Lions kept Jim Caldwell, brought in a new GM and Bob Quinn, but we knew that the clock was ticking really fast on Jim Caldwell. It was like the pressure is up for you to deliver right now, and everyone in the organization feels that. So there's not going to be a way to alleviate that pressure, make them feel conjoined if you bring in a new GM without replacing the other two. And so that's when it becomes a much larger conversation of, do you blow the whole thing up? And I think that is on the table too, because I think when you're looking at this franchise overall and the fact that they haven't even made the playoffs, this will be 4 straight years they haven't made the playoffs if they don't get that help from the other teams and win the last 3 games. You start to wonder, like, what are we really betting on with this entire operation? And so they've got some things to prove here. It's going to be hard if they can't get that help. And it's like, I don't know if that 3 games against 3 losing teams will erase things that we saw in Denver. It probably won't. But maybe if Anthony Richardson makes the strides and that part of it feels like it's heading the right direction, you keep the bet going for another year. But it's ever since they chose to have disjointed timelines from the GM to the coach and quarterback, they put themselves in this spot where it's very hard to evaluate, because you should be tying the 3 of them together. But naturally, the arrangement that you started with made it so they're not really tied together.
I think the biggest part about it is the fans, when and if, I guess, Chris comes back for year 9, there's going to be a lot of fans that say, screw this, I'm done. And I don't blame them. Don't blame them at all. Now, I understand the coach and the quarterback steer in year number 2. That's one thing. But and this is not a backhanded slap whatsoever, but there are a lot of dudes, I think, around the NFL that are kind of like Shane and like Nick Sirianni. I've mentioned this before. I think Nick Sirianni would be Shane if Nick Sirianni were here, and Shane would be Nick Sirianni if he were in Philly, meaning that they have a better quarterback and a better offense. Mm-hmm. And I think that you could change one out for the other and it would be the same. But here's the question you have to ask. It's one thing about the right now with Richardson, but let's project, and I think it's fair to do that, into next year and further down the road after that. Do you think that he has the skill set level to be the type of high-level quarterback that they selected him to be the year before last, number 4 overall? Because sitting here right now, I would have to absolutely answer no. And there's such a decrease now in time for him to be able to adequately prove that without losing more and more of the fan base and then pushing back a timeline of this team being good consistently again. I just look further down the road in the landscape, and I don't see it happening with the quarterback. Thus, I don't think it's going to happen with anybody. So that's what I would say, top to bottom, you need an overhaul here. It's just because the outlook does not look good. It looks as dim as it would otherwise to me.
Yeah, I mean, as far as does Anthony have the potential, I think you have to say he has the potential, because we know he has the athletic skills, and we have seen, even though it's just flashes, we have seen those flashes this year with, coming into this past game, which was very bad for him. He had 2 game-winning drives in 3 weeks, and it felt like there was positive momentum there, and then he had a bad game on Sunday, and some of that in a vacuum you could accept as that's a young quarterback who has as high variance profile as he has. That's a bit of what, if you go back to Josh Allen at the same time, was going on with him. But what's different is that entire process around him that I've mentioned has sped this all up and shortened the leash on him, where it was a GM that had been here for years, and so he's sort of inheriting some of the pressure to win. You mentioned with fans for that part of it, win them back in with the general manager.
You think I'm unfair with Anthony? By the way, I should ask you that. You think I'm being unfair about Anthony's long term?
No, because he was a boomer bust pick in the beginning, and most of those bust. And so you get this far, we haven't seen the proof of the concept yet, and the flashes are not enough to become proof. When the overall numbers, he's still below 50% accuracy on the season. He has more interceptions than touchdowns, and it's the fact that, like, even though that was somewhat the case with Josh Allen early on, that team never got off that roller coaster. They said, we're going to see this out. We're going to develop them. And again, there's some more belief in that because that GM was new there. This franchise has already introduced the doubt that that's going to happen when they benched him for 2 weeks. I mean, they opened up the possibility that they don't think this can work. And so it does kind of look like they're grasping at straws right now when they bench him for 2 weeks. They happen to lose 2 games because Joe Flacco isn't very good, so they throw him back out there. It looks a lot better at the start, and they were able to say, look, we sat him down. He got all better at all this area. And then this past week, it all kind of regressed back to what it looked like before the benching. A lot of inaccuracy, some forced throws, and the team's not winning. When they needed to win this past week. So no, the odds are. I mean, if you wanted to jump off the whole thing, when you combine those 3 pillars together, I think you have a totally fair argument where you say, okay, the one thing that you may want to hang on to here is maybe you have some belief that Shane Steichen could work as a coach. Maybe you have some belief that if you have enough time, Anthony Richardson could eventually develop, but you don't have the proof of either of those things right now. And so, is that worth hanging on to? I don't know. I mean, that's if you don't believe in the general manager, you could absolutely believe that you need to blow all those 3 things up. So that's just kind of unfortunate for the spot that Anthony Richardson ended up in. And some of it's certainly his fault. He's played poorly in moments, but what I'm referring to is the injury, taking that time away as a rookie. He's in his second year, but the timeline has kind of sped up to where this feels, it should be like his rookie year, but it feels like his second year. They took time away with the benching, and they ramped up the pressure for him to come back and play well. And now they're not going to win the division again, which is a problem when it's the same general manager hasn't won the division since he got here. And so all this stuff is kind of combining. And unfortunately, this is what struggling franchises often do when they draft young quarterbacks. They ask that kid to come in and fix everything. And that's what this team ended up doing when they rolled back every single starter from last season to this season. And every single week, I've covered 3 teams now, so I know a lot of the opposing writers in the league. Every single week, people, who cover other teams are asking me why this team didn't add anybody to this team. And ultimately, it comes back to they wanted to pitch this as, hey, don't, Chris Ballard said this many times, don't crown Anthony Richardson. Let's not crown him yet. But ultimately, they're crowning him if they're asking him to deliver something that hasn't been here for 8 years, which is a division title, hasn't been here for 4 years, which is a playoff appearance. He was supposed to come in and be the difference. And the fact that he's struggling becomes that much more of a glaring issue of, hey, you didn't fix this, so now you're going to wear the success and mostly failure of what the season has been so far. It's just all discombobulated at the moment, and some of that is unfortunate with the injury. Some of that they've introduced with the benching. Some of that is on Anthony for the reasons that led to the benching. You can go a lot of different ways for the blame, but it's less likely of a proposition right now for sure than you would have said coming into the year or coming into last year. This is so far in this marriage so far, this is about the low point outside of the benching was the low point. But as far as the hope for the long term and the time to develop it, when you lose that chance to go to the playoffs, if that's kind of the edge they're on right now, that's where it gets pretty tricky.
Now, I wonder, I got to run here in less than a minute. I'm assuming at some point we'll hear from Jim Irsay about this, because you mentioned earlier we haven't heard from him, and under these circumstances prior, he's been all over it, trying to either calm down the fan base or tell the fan base how things are going to be different. So saying nothing, is that speaking volumes to you guys?
Yeah, it's very interesting that he's not saying anything. I mean, of course, he's had some very big time health issues in the past year, so he's been less into doing the videos he did after the 2021 season. He doesn't traditionally talk after the season until the owners' meetings, but he didn't go last year. So I really don't know when we'll hear from him next, and that's why it's all sort of a guessing game as to where this is going to go.
No question. Hey, Nate, I always appreciate that, man. We'll see you coming up on Sunday, and at 2 or 3 at home, we'll see you up in the press box, and keep doing what you're doing, brother. I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll see you then.
It's Nate Atkins of the Star, the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So, yeah, no Jim Irsay. Normally, he kind of helps create a path for us to go down, and Nate's right about that. It's not me being pessimistic. It's me being reasonable in what you see right now. And in the NFL, most often when you see something not working for an extended period of time, it's probably not going to work for an even more extended period of time. And what you do is set yourself back. So that's been my philosophy on it, but my philosophy is different than what I think actually will occur, as we discussed. Back to that on the other side, too. A little hoopage we'll get into. And the rest of the week regarding IU and Notre Dame. Do not go anywhere inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
107.5 The Fan.
Nate Atkins of the Star Podcast 107.5thefan.com. This is a Yacht Rock classic. 1982, James. Toto, the legendary Africa, B1057. JMV Takeover on B105.7 starts. What is that now? Is that 2 weeks? Is that 2 weeks from yesterday? 2 weeks from today, I'm sorry. New Year's Eve is on a Tuesday, right? Tuesday night? So that's 2 weeks from today. The JMV Takeover reestablishes for season number 5 on New Year's Eve. Hey, 239-1070, the number right now. The released in 1982 classic from Toto, Africa means Toto's going to be here. Ruoff Home Mortgage Music Center. You guys ready for that? Going to be great. Little triple bill action for you at Ruoff coming up in August. In fact, August the 6th. I think I said 5th earlier today. It's a Wednesday, so we'll all be able to hit that up. August the 6th, Ruoff Home Mortgage Music Center. Toto, Christopher Cross, whom I saw at the Hendricks County Live facility back in June, and he was awesome. And Men at Work. I see a picture. I have had both Steve Lukather and Joseph Williams on the show before. Joseph Williams has long time also been a part of Toto. Joseph Williams is the son of John Williams. And I'm assuming you guys know who John Williams is, right? Anybody? John Williams? John Williams did the film score for Star Wars. And I believe John Williams is a part of the film score as well for Jaws. But once upon a time, we had Joseph on, and it was awesome. And by the way, John Williams is still with us. Trying to see all the films he's been a part of. E.T. This is great stuff. He did do Jaws, right, John Williams? Yeah. But his son Joseph, long time been a member of Toto. This is from Scotty Dupal. In my opinion, you are a little hard on the coach. Many questionable calls, but hard to coach a team when not much talent on offense. Receivers are B and C level. No number one, no tight ends, and a beat-up right side of the line. Then a running back that drops the ball before the goal line. And, you know, Scott, you're probably right. If there's one aspect of this, I mean, the coach is going to be as good as the quarterback and the talent, and then the talent's not good. But my problem is you're going to bring in a new general manager who's going to want to coach. You're going to bring in a new general manager who wants the coach and the quarterback. You're going to bring in a new general manager that wants the coach but wants a new quarterback. Right? So I think it just happens because from top to bottom, it may not be completely on him. But let's just face it, one of the defining moments of that game on Sunday was an ill-advised pass that he had his rookie receiver try to throw back to his quarterback as a lateral. I'm not suggesting that means, well, you got to get rid of him. But I just think top to bottom, you've seen this thing it's been pieced together. You know, different positions, I should say, different times. And it's about time to get everybody that you believe in on the same timeline here. But you're probably right, Scott. I probably am. If there is one person that may not and probably is not or should be in the directive of that particular criticism, even though he's going to get it because he's the head coach, is probably Shane Steichen. But be that as it may, that's the situation. That's what you get into. Again, you're right. You're going to be as good as your talent, as your quarterback. My thought is, and it sounds like a complete slap in the face, and I don't mean it to, but I just think offensive guys like that you can find easily. And I do think that he is swamped at times by being the head coach and the guy calling the plays offensively. Some guys are built for that, some guys aren't. And it's just my thought. Pat says, who the hell is Nate Atkins? Nate Atkins writes regarding the Colts for the Star, Pat. Did he forget our offensive line can't pass block? And AR has played about 28 total games between college and pros. He needs a lot more reps. A lot more reps. What's that future look like there? I got to call it in the now. JMV, might Jim Irsay being absent here, laying low as he opens up New Year's Eve JMV takeover like he did in the past? I doubt that's the reason. I do. JMV, Nate is always great on the show because he covered other teams. I feel that gives him an outside perspective regarding the Colts. Thank you very much for that compliment. And 239-1070 is the number. Time to get back to the phones, and Jay's up next. Hello, Jay.
Hey, John, I wanted to wish you a happy belated birthday.
Very kind of you, Jay. Thank you.
You're now the same age as me, the double nickels, Roy Hibbert.
Yes, indeed, and we're feeling good about it, aren't we? 55.
Oh, yeah. But I wanted to get back to that Colts game on Sunday.
Sure.
When Alec Pierce went down, I knew we didn't have much of a chance because our only downfield threat is A.D. Mitchell, and he runs his long routes about 15 feet out of bounds. Maybe he's geared for the Canadian Football League with a wider field.
I will say this, Jay. I think when your veteran running back goes for a 41-yard touchdown run and drops it after 40 yards, that probably was the pivotal moment of the game. But, yes, if you're talking about Alec Pierce being any sort of threat just in general, they don't have a lot of those, and at least down the field he would be that. But, yeah, I knew that it was over once your running back did what he did and got called out for it. And the points were taken off the board and the ball was given back to the Broncos. That's kind of where everything happened. And then a ridiculous play call when you're moving the ball for A.D. Mitchell to throw it lateral style to your quarterback. That's all stupid, too. So, yeah, a lot of stupidity.
I wanted to make another point.
Please.
You never see Anthony Richardson. You rarely see him using that tablet. Does University of Florida teach computer classes or not?
Yeah, Jay, I think thank you for the call. Believe they do. I don't think that's it. I will say this regarding Anthony Richardson. He is really good with scripted out plays at the start of the game. And he is good at shaking off on the inbound big defensive lineman trying to sack him. But the most important aspect that you have to be really good at is being consistent in throwing the football. Again, high-level guys, what you expect from him, can put the football wherever they want to put the football. Now, I always go back to this quote from Remember the Titans. You can throw it a mile, but you can't pitch it a yard. He can throw it a mile, but he can't be accurate really any other place consistently on the field. Now, if you believe that's going to change, okay. I just happen to sit here right now, and I will wildly wonder if that is ever going to be the case as a quarterback for him. And I think that's absolutely fair and reasonable to suggest that very thing. Skivvy says Michael Lombardi on McAfee's show has said many times that Shane is a good coordinator but lousy head coach. Doesn't focus on the overall. I just think, and I've said he gets swamped by it. I think he's swamped by it. Too much. Some guys can do it, some guys can't. It's the way that it is. So Michael writes this, you're right, everyone needs to stop the excuses. It's time to move on. Animal House had a line here. Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son. I would say boring, mediocre, and incompetent is no way to succeed in the NFL. Yeah, I'm telling you, there is, Michael, a lot accurate about that statement. boring, mediocre, and incompetent. I think they hit each of those marks on Sunday. They're boring. They got into a boring stretch. Mediocre, which they are as a team. And there was a lot of incompetence we saw out there. Yeah, it's fair to say. 239-1070. Does Todd have a price of Notre Dame IU tickets? Hey, Todd, what's the price tag on that?
Well, first of all, the Roy Hibbert trade rumors have started once again. So
yes, it was. What was the price tag on those IU-Notre Dame tickets for Friday?
Eric, who lives in Bloomington, $1,100 for 2 tickets. He's closer to Mishawaka than he is to Touchdown Jesus with those seats, but that's what he paid. By the way, that's 5% of his take-home income for the year. So
man, that's a lot of cash right there.
Yeah, we're for a 25-year-old. It is. So anyhow, that's the number. That's the number, my friend.
Todd, I appreciate the update on that. 1100, is that what he said, James? Holy crap. Hey, I do want to sneak Daryl in here who's been on hold. I know we got to run here. Daryl, go ahead. How are you?
Hey, John, happy belated birthday first.
Thank you, buddy. Hey, congratulations on your trek of weight loss. You're doing great.
Yep, you too, buddy. You too. One question for you. Do you, if they keep what they have now into next year, do you ever see the light at the end of the tunnel with this GM, this coach, and this quarterback?
Absolutely not. I don't.
Well,
listen, I want to be excited and jovial about it, but I just got to be honest. If anybody else could explain to me what they see that I don't, maybe I'm short-sighted on it. But yeah, nothing. No.
So why not blow this up? Get another GM. Reach out to Sam Donald's agent. Try to get him on. He's only 25. Reach out for free agent, wide receiver, and tight end, and see what we can do with a different quarterback. Because what we have, or what the Colts have now, I just don't see it happening and turning this into a championship team.
I will say this, and I said overhaul-wise, that's what I think is necessary. However, I do not believe that's what they'll do. I think that's what they will do after next year. That's my opinion. Now, my opinion, I think it needs to happen if, obviously, you don't make the postseason this year. But I think that, in all likelihood, both of our opinions, that takes place after next year.
It's Groundhog's Day every year with this team.
I know. It's the same damn thing. There's no question about that. I know. And we'll see if people are completely turned off, if that is the path in which they take here.
And if there's anybody know about watching a bad team, it's me. I've been a Lions fan since '62. So.
I know it, but you're even with the loss, you're living in it right now. Daryl, congratulations. Speaking of loss on that weight loss, keep it going.
Thanks, brother. You have a good night.
More calls as we close it here. Get you to the Colts Daily Update coming up at the top of the hour. You will not want to miss that. Out tomorrow, Greg Rakestraw in back-to-back road shows Thursday and Friday. Explanation, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Become a AAA member today. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
I am the cream, yeah. The cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, I got you covered here. Tomorrow, Greg Rakestraw's in. Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots, Ale Emporium, the famous Hermanaki Wings on tap coming up on Thursday in Greenwood, in fact, County Line Road. County Line in Emerson. We'll see you there. Friday, downtown Coach's Tavern, Tommy S.'s Place, Bud Light Blue Friday. Colts tickets. I'll have bullseye passes for you in Staffaket coming up on Friday at Coach's Tavern downtown. JMV with a new general manager who's willing to keep Steichen and AR a lateral move or an upgrade. They stay here. Why bother firing Ballard, Sean? That's what I've said all along. If you're going to do one, you do them all. If you don't, then they'll stay with all three. That's been my point. Not my opinion, but what I believe is going to happen. And especially if they were, for example, to win out and still miss the postseason. Well, I think it's going to happen. Yeah, I mean, if you're a general manager, somebody will take the job, but don't you pare down your choices. The ones that you truly want, if you still have a head coach and a quarterback that maybe the one that you want would rather have somebody else. We shall see. Ray is at 239-1070 right now. Hello, Ray. How are you?
Hey, John. How's it going today?
Ray, I'm outstanding. Thank you for asking.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm pissed. So, here's the thing. We want to walk around and talk about accountability with this franchise, but there's been no accountability with Chris Ballard. And, it kind of reminds me about when I used to go to school and act a fool and be a class clown in school. The embarrassment of getting whoopings in school, it didn't really do anything for me. The embarrassment of having to lay across the bed and my mom take a plastic hanger to my backside really didn't do anything. I went to school and still acted a fool. I didn't really have any accountability until I came home and my mom started taking my toys away and, putting me on punishment and taking my video games away. That's when I learned accountability. So you know what? For me, where it's going to start is this fan base holding Jim Irsay and the Colts brass accountable for the product that Chris Ballard has been putting out there year after year. I'm getting sick and tired of being almost right there. And that's what that Taylor play did for me. It kind of summarized the Chris Ballard tenure of being almost right there, but you never get there. So for me, if Ballard isn't fired by January 17th, I say let's start with the Peyton Manning statue. And, let's start there and hold some accountability and take that away. And then maybe, just maybe, things will start to take a change for things around here and get his blood out of town. And that's where I'm at with it.
So you're done, unless he's done, correct? You're done with it.
Oh, hell yeah. And like I said, we may have to, vandalize the statue or something to send a message.
Well, we won't want that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, we got to start somewhere, John.
All right, well, yeah, we don't do that. So, but, no, I mean, listen, you're speaking as a fan saying enough is going to be enough if no changes are made coming up after the season. So, that's logical. Got anything else for me there, Ray?
Yeah, I'll be at the game Sunday. I'll come by, say what's up to you once again.
You better, buddy.
Sad to say the season's coming to an end. But, man, I'm sick of being a laughingstock, man. This is embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the Texans fans point at the Colts and the Colts of the Texans as what it used to be. That's completely flipped now.
Now, do you think all of that winning and being in the upper quartile of the upper quartile, this is just, our just due for winning so much in the early years, Maybe it's time for us to take some losing. Is this
I think there's been enough. Like 10 years of not winning the division. I think that's losing. Listen, even for cutting Peyton Manning, what you have to pay, the price of punishment for doing that, I think after 10 years, surely to God, that's been paid, right? Shouldn't there be a little payback coming? Like a good fortune coming your way or something? You got to live with that? Is there an exorcism that's necessary, you think, now, if you continue to have to deal with it? If it was all up to good fortune, then certainly that would have changed by now. This is just bad management, right? And
of course.
And on the field, just not being good enough. And as you mentioned, the maestro of mediocre. That's what the Colts have been, or below that at some points, and a laughingstock at some points. They've been everything but what they used to be. And that's the problem, and that's why you have a huge issue with it.
And you're damn right, John. I'll see you Sunday, buddy.
You got it, Ray. Thank you for the call. That was really good right there. I have to admit, man, Ray had me at that. Yeah, yeah. The one thing we can't do that. We can't do the stupid stuff. But you certainly, you are allowed to approach the situation, certainly with the disposable income level, what you normally do. But everything else, let's keep it legal, everybody. Keep it legal. Alex is next. Hello, Alex. How are you?
Hey, John. So, to kind of piggyback off what actually Ray was saying is the accountability part. To look at it a little bit deeper, a couple things that I've kind of noticed and I think is kind of rotting our franchise is the nepotism there with the Irsay family. And then also, it's kind of harsh to say, but, we are ran by an addict. So if we know, I think we all know somebody in our life that is an addict of some sort, and typically things fall off, the wheels when, they're at the helm of things. And I think that plays into the accountability part. It's just something, it's sad and it's kind of, uncomfortable to talk about, but, you see across the league, a lot of the teams that are ran through the family and stuff, they're the ones that are always just, turning in the mud. And
I will tell you this, Alex, and thank you for the call. I think this more comes down to 8 years of mediocre at best decision making from the general manager's office. It comes down to a coach with a bunch of wrong decisions that is kind of overwhelmed right now, swamped, as I have put it, with the OC and the head coaching duties, and a quarterback that is not, and I don't think will be what they expected him to be when they drafted him number 4 overall. Thus, you don't see a light further down the road in this. If there was something you were working for right now and you kind of saw it materializing, I think everybody would be okay with it. But you see the same damn thing over and over. The landscape of the road never changes. So it's more about that than it is anything else. Alex, thank you very much. Thanks to Nate Atkins and Greg Rakestraw. Greg's in here coming up tomorrow. I'm back on Thursday. Ale Emporium, Greenwood. Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots with Brent Halverson on Thursday, too. James, great job out of you. Don't go anywhere. The Colts Daily Update that's coming up next. Sit tight right here. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.